Morning, folks. This is Tip from the Stupid Gardener, and this is part 3 of our series, Compost Happens. Um, Today's topic is going to be composting right into your garden. One thing that I did when my wife and I got married about 7 years ago is I was trying to put in a garden straight into the soil here in our backyard. And we are in North Carolina, just outside of the Charlotte area. And the soil in this backyard, when you get below this grass that we have out here, it's probably about this thick, you know. And under that is that North Carolina clay, rock, sand, and water really doesn't get down deep out here. And one thing I've noticed in this backyard is that the water kind of just runs, you know, right off this lawn. And I have a difficult time trying to plant directly into this soil with a garden. When we first got married, I tried to plant right into the soil, and I pretty much had to use a pickaxe to dig down and get the tomatoes and cucumbers planted. And I just noticed when I watered, the water never really went down into the soil. It kind of made a puddle and kind of just drained off. So I decided, well, I got to go to a raised garden bed here and kind of create my own soil. And so I was able to get these cedar raised garden bed. It came in a kit, and I was able to get them on sale. I got them like in the fall, winter time, when Home Depot was trying to get rid of these and bring in some, I guess, some winter stock. So, and I think the package was damaged, and so, you know, I got a pretty good deal on it. And so I put in a 4x8 here. And then this past year, I found some more, and I was able to pretty much over double our size for next year. So, and what I did, I have a layer of cardboard that I put on the bottom here as kind of a weed barrier. Then I put in some compost, and I bought some garden soil, and put in some manure. And on the top, I keep putting in compost, so I have a layer of soil here. And the garden's done quite well in here. And when I plant these tomatoes, and last year I planted them right in here, and they got down, the root system got down into that compost, and it really spread out. And when I went to pull them up in the fall after they had stopped growing, I really had a difficult time getting them out because that root system had really got down into that compost and had really, you know, spread out and was really feeding off those nutrients. And I plant like bush tomatoes here, and they just kind of grow wide, and you get about probably a 5 to 6 week growth of tomatoes on there, and then it dies off. You can also get the vine tomatoes that kind of grow tall, and you can prune them and get them up tall. But it's just the two of us here, and we have more than enough tomatoes. In fact, we give away more than what we eat ourselves. So what I want to talk about is just taking your kitchen scraps, and you can feed your soil right here in the garden. So this is one of my bins that I collect during the week at work, and so what I'll do, I'll just bury this right into the soil, and I think what we'll do, I'm going to bury this in here in a week or so. We'll come back and look at it. And I have kitchen scraps buried all through here. In fact, I planted some here a couple of weeks ago, and they pretty much decomposed a lot. The only thing, I had some pistachio shells that I put in there, and that's going to take a little bit longer. But I got some good worms in here. That'll come up and they kind of attack all this, and they churn it and put it back into the soil. So I think what we'll do, we'll dig a little hole here, and we'll bury this in here, and we'll check it in a couple of weeks and just see what it looks like. I'm going to get down in there pretty good, and we'll dump this. And I also have some paper towels that I put in here too. But what I got in here is banana peels and some apple scraps also. And so we'll see what this looks like in a couple of weeks and see how long it is decomposing. This is a perfect way to get your soil going, especially in the wintertime, because this will really start decomposing when the rain gets on it and spreads down and gets into those layers. So we'll bury this in here, We got paper towel in there and everything too, and that's going to decompose also. And the worms really like this. So let me bury this up, and I'm going to mark this with a flag, and we'll come back and look at it in a couple weeks and just see how it's going. You know. And one of the reasons I do this is, you know, this, like I said, is really going to feed the soil and really get it breaking down and get the worms up there. Now we have a lot of raccoons and possums, and I bury kitchen scraps in here. Don't really have a problem with them coming in here and digging it up, which is great because I don't want to put anything in here that they're going to take. So, so we'll take a look at this in another week or so and just see how it's breaking down. And when I had planted, like I said, when I plant tomatoes in here before, they really take off in here because this really is great soil. It's better than the soil, the native soil here in North Carolina. And I was talking to my mother last Saturday, and we're talking about composting and different things like that. And we're talking about the house we had up in New England, and we really had great soil in our backyard. The house that was next to us was an old farmhouse that was built in the 1700s, and that was like the main house for that area until they built the subdivision. And so the soil that we had was great soil back there. We still composted, and you know, and that's how my mother fed her plants and everything. But she reminded me of a story. My dad had a friend of his. His name was Ollie Shannon, I believe. And my mother was getting ready to plant her tomatoes, and I guess he was over visiting my dad, and he told my mom, he said, well, you know, you wait a week and let me come back. And, you know, he goes, I have something that will help your tomato plants grow. So we said, okay. And he showed up at about a week later, and he had a bunch of fish. And I guess he used to like to go fishing, and he brought us back some fish. And I remember my older brother was out there in the garden, and he had him dig the holes where my mother was going to plant the tomatoes, and we dropped a fish in each hole. Then my mother planted the tomatoes right on top of that. And those roots of those tomatoes went down and just fed off that fish that we had planted there. And she did a whole row of them. And when I was talking to my mom, she just said, she goes, that was the best year that we had tomatoes. And she said, because those roots were just feeding off that fish. You know, as that rotted down, all those nutrients were coming right up into that tomato plant. And she said they grew like crazy. And my mother used to can everything that she used to grow out there, so we had a pretty good crop. So, like I said, we'll come back and check on this. And this is just a short video because it's been raining down here in North Carolina. It's been raining like 3 days. We get a day of sun, and then it rains again. So I wanted to come out and get this completed before the rains came. So if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. If you got comments, you know, place them down below. And if you enjoyed the video, just hit that like button there. And so this is part 3. We'll be back with part 4, hopefully in a week or so. And until then, this is Tip from the Stupid Gardener. Take care. God bless everybody.